Join me Wednesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern, where we'll give away over $300 in cash prizes in our annual NFL Trivia Jackpot game. Link to join below. And now, on with our feature presentation. How are coaches so bad at this? Even in a week like this, which was maybe the best week of the entire NFL season, with a ton of crazy games and a ton of crazy finishes. From the largest comeback in NFL history, to the most boneheaded play of all time, to the Jaguars giving me about 5 heart attacks in their upset win over the Cowboys, I find myself asking that question. If you are losing the game by 1 possession, there is almost never a good reason to leave the game with a timeout in your back pocket. To do that is coaching malpractice. To do that is a complete mismanagement and bungling of the clock. And to do that is a complete lack of situational awareness on so many levels. And yet, at least half of the Dumb Decisions episodes this year have featured this terrible clock management. At least half of the episodes have featured a coach being stupid with the clock. And the sad part was, I thought Robert Saleh was one of the good ones. I really did. He had done a great job with the Jets for most of the season, building up that defense into something special, and building this team into a potential playoff contender. For the most part, he's been a very solid coach for New York, and hasn't done anything too boneheaded. And then, this happens. The biggest blunder of his entire career with the Jets, at just about the worst possible time, considering how badly they needed this game, and where they were in their season. If there was ever a time to be smart with your timeout management and with the clock, and not do anything stupid, this was it. And yet, here we are. Because for yet another week, we need to talk about a coach having no idea what to do at the end of the game with regards to his timeouts. For those who aren't watching this in the immediate aftermath of the game, here's a brief recap of how we got to this point. It's December 18th, 2022. It's week 15 of the NFL season, and we have an absolutely big interconference battle on our hands at MetLife Stadium between the Detroit Lions and the New York Jets. Even though this game was huge for the Lions as they fight to get back into the playoff picture, I'm only focusing on what this game meant for the Jets, because this game was equally as important. After starting the season off red hot thanks to a 5-2 record, and looking well on their way to the postseason, the Jets had struggled heavily as of late, dropping 4 of their last 6 at each of their last 2 games. If they lose this game to the Lions, then not only do they fall to 7-7 and fail to have a winning record for the first time since all the way back in week 4, but their playoff hopes are now hanging on by a thread with 3 games to go against 3 teams all fighting for their playoff lives. Oh, and they have to do this with Zach Wilson at quarterback, their backup who was infamously benched for the last 3 weeks following a dismal performance all season, but especially in week 11 against the Patriots. And while things are looking good for the Jets so far, as they're up 17-13 with the Lions facing 4th and inches and under 2 minutes left, when Jared Goff hit a wide-open Brock Wright for what would turn out to be a 51-yard touchdown, thanks to some great running after the catch, the Lions found themselves on top, leading at 20-17 and needing to make one more stop to win this game and improve to 500. The Jets had one more shot to win this one, or at the very least, tie it and send it into overtime. And after Zach Wilson somehow hits Garrett Wilson, the likely frontrunner for Offensive Rookie of the Year, for a gain of 22 yards on 3rd and 19, the Jets are back in business. The good news for New York is that they have a minute left, and they have 3 timeouts. In no way whatsoever should time be an issue. It's just that if you have a play that gets a good chunk of yards and is over the middle of the field, or can't get out of bounds, if you're Robert Saleh, you have to call timeout and not let an insane amount of time run off the clock. With that, we've got 53 seconds left. Alright, Zach Wilson, show me what you got.
53 seconds on the clock. Wilson on 2nd and 10. Uncorks it. Good grab.
Holy cow. They might actually do this. What a redemption story this would be. That's a nice throw in tight coverage, and it gets the first down, moves the chains, and keeps the drive alive. You're still in a very good spot, and now You'll only need about 15 yards to get into field goal range. This is looking wait a second. Please tell me the CBS clock operator is asleep at the wheel. Please tell me the graphics are off and the production truck is hungover from the incredible World Cup final that preceded this. Why is the clock still running? You're running out of time. The clock's not stopped. And you have all 3 timeouts. Why is the clock running? Why is the clock still running?
New set of downs with 30 seconds left.
Oh my god. They actually just let 18 seconds run off the clock. 18 freaking seconds with 3 timeouts. I don't believe it. I genuinely don't believe it. Just out of curiosity, did they wind up using all of those timeouts? Did they actually get a chance to use them all? I think we know the answer to this, but let's just double check. There it is. Unbelievable. You're now forced to line up for a super long 58-yard field goal in New Jersey December weather because you didn't have enough time to get closer. Even though you're leaving with a timeout in your back pocket. All because of letting 18 seconds run off the clock. And if we go back to 122 left, running just 3 plays in about 45 seconds. This is going to end in disaster. We all know it. Just play the tape. Let's get it over with. Just play the tape. Come on.
From 58 yards away, Zerline's kick. No good!
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something that looked bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something that looked awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the mind of New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh. I mean, what a bad time to make this segment for the first time. Fighting for your playoff lives at the very end of the game. Just about every coach makes it on here at some point, but oof, this is about as bad a time as ever to make your debut. However, I can't say it isn't well deserved. Everyone was roasting Saleh after the game, and I couldn't find a single person defending his timeout management here. The back pages and the fan are going to be incredible, and I cannot wait, because there is nothing to defend. It was that bad, and it was that inexcusable. So with that being said, let's take a look at why saving a timeout and then running out of time, thereby defeating the purpose of saving the timeout, is a really bad idea. And let's think of how many plays the Jets wasted potentially by not calling a timeout in that spot. If we assume that a play takes about 6 seconds to run, and the clock ran from 49 seconds at the time that Wilson made the catch to 31 seconds at the time that the next snap was taken, then do the math. The Jets wasted 3 plays. That's absolutely huge. They threw away 3 more chances of getting closer for a Greg Zuerlein field goal, all because of their complete incompetence with the clock. And the number one thing that Saleh failed to take into account in all of this is the plays themselves that the Jets were calling, and the possible outcomes to those plays. What do I mean by that? Well, think about it like this. The Jets are clearly not running the ball in this spot, so for all intents and purposes, they're calling passing plays, and nothing but passing plays. If you throw the ball, assuming you don't take a sack, because your quarterback has to know better, there are 3 things that can happen on a passing play. The first thing is that the pass falls incomplete, stopping the clock. The second thing is that the pass is completed and the receiver gets out of bounds, thereby stopping the clock. The third thing is that the pass is completed and the receiver is unable to get out of bounds, making the clock keep run. Now ask yourself this. If you have 31 seconds left in the game, meaning that you have about 4, maybe 5 plays before you try a field goal, what are the odds that you're going to be in a spot where you have to burn all 3 of those timeouts? What are the odds that in a 4-play sequence, you're not just completing 3 passes in a situation where the Lions are expecting the pass, but those 3 passes are over the middle of the field, thereby keeping the clock running? If you throw 1 incomplete pass and 1 pass to the sidelines, by default, you don't need all 3 timeouts. It's really unlikely. Well, congratulations, because that is, quite literally, the only scenario in which it would have made sense to keep the timeout and not burn it in that spot, if every single play was a completed pass over the middle. In every other scenario, the most likely thing, you're leaving the game with a timeout in your back pocket, completely unused. So there was literally no risk whatsoever to calling the timeout as soon as Wilson made the catch with 49 seconds left and stopping it right then and there. It was not too early in the slightest bit. It was completely necessary. If you call the timeout with 49 seconds left, you still have 2 timeouts. You have about 8 plays, and you can use the entirety of the field. If you don't, you have maybe half the number of plays left. Would you rather have 8 chances to score, or 4 or 5? Obviously, you want more chances. But not Saleh. Not Robert freaking Saleh. He didn't want to buy more lottery tickets for the same price. But here's the concerning part. After the game, Robert Saleh explained his controversial decision to just not use the timeout, and let about 20 seconds tick off for no reason. And his explanation made no sense at all. It was nothing but word vomit. As Saleh said, "I'll look back at it. With 3 timeouts, I feel like anything in bounds, obviously, you can be aggressive, just trying to save as many timeouts as I can. I can probably look back at it and say we could have used one for sure. But at the same time, when you have 3 timeouts, time is not an issue whether you use one there or not. But yeah, I could always, in hindsight for me, call a timeout to settle the guys down. But as far as from a time standpoint, you still have plenty of time with 3 timeouts." What does that even mean? I have a headache from that. You know why you can be aggressive with timeouts? Because you can call the timeouts! Just having the timeouts isn't enough. You have to use the timeouts. Otherwise, that defeats the purpose of having and hoarding timeouts. You know how to save the timeouts, you just don't know how to use the timeouts. And that's really the most important part, the using. Anyone can just save timeouts. You can be aggressive with timeouts and use the whole field, because there's the assumption that if you call a play to that part of the field, you can call the timeout. Just having it isn't good enough. It's like if you go to Disney back in the old days of the Fast Pass system, where you could use your Fast Pass after your reservation time, and you just hoard a bunch of Fast Passes for rides and decide to use them all starting at 8 o'clock, even though the park closes at 9, meaning that you won't be able to get on all the rides. Good job! You got the Fast Passes, you just saved them for way too late and couldn't do anything with them. And timeouts mean nothing if you can't do anything with them, as Saleh found out on this day. But sure, keeping the timeouts allowed you to be so aggressive that you called passing plays and used the middle of the field, which is exactly what you would have done if you had 2 timeouts and 20 additional seconds. Give me a break. Give me a freaking break. So what do we learn from all this? Use your timeouts. It's not that hard. Use your timeouts. If you have 3 timeouts and the clock is becoming an issue because you're trailing and there's less than a minute left, start using your timeouts, because the clock is not your friend, and because otherwise, you're not going to be able to use them all the way that you want to. Having 3 timeouts left with a minute is a good thing, don't get me wrong, but it means nothing if you don't actually use them, or don't know how to use them. Hoarding means nothing if what you're hoarding lacks any and all value and becomes a complete waste. And if your explanation for why you didn't call the timeouts was because your strategy enabled you to do, quite literally, the exact same thing that you were going to do, but just with way less time to work with, and under way tougher circumstances, then maybe you need to rethink your strategy a bit. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9. To see college football videos, subscribe to JaguarGator8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.